She Dares the Devil cuts the corner and leads. Letruska in the center of the racetrack now comes with a full-fledged challenge. Then comes En Fouton and Get Rid of What Ails You. She Dares the Devil and Letruska. Final 16th of a mile. She Dares the Devil. Letruska to the outside. Gonna be close. She Dares the Devil. Letruska. She Dares the Devil. The 35th Azeri goes to She Dares.
Welcome back to another racing preview here on Racing Rundown. Today we're talking about the Grade 1 La Troienne at Churchill Downs. This is one of the undercards on Kentucky Oaks Friday. We've got 7 females for this race. None of the big names, none of the Swiss Skydivers or the Monomoy girls, but this is a very good group of horses, a very deep group of horses. And as usual, we're going to do the usual drill on here, preview all of them. I'll give you my opinions on them, and at the end of the video, I will give you my pick for this race. So, as usual, we're going to start off with the number 1 horse, and that is En Fouton. And the very interesting thing about this race, one more thing that I will mention about the La Troienne, is you have 5 of the 7 horses in this race are undefeated at Churchill Downs, and of those 5, 4 of them have multiple career starts at Churchill Downs. Dunbar Road, the number 3 horse who we'll get to in a couple of minutes, is the only one who only has 1 career race at Churchill Downs. And the 6th horse, Saninas, has never finished out of the money at Churchill Downs. So lots of experience at Churchill, and these are several fairly evenly matched females. But we're going to start off with the number 1 horse, En Fouton, who's coming out of a disappointing 4th place finish in the Azeri Stakes at Oaklawn. I was pretty high on En Fouton going into this race. I picked her. I really liked her run at Churchill Downs last fall in the Fall City. That was a really nice race. You know, you go back into the Remington Park Oaks. That was a really good race for her. This is a Kenny McPeak filly who tends to run her better races when she's away from some of the top competition, and I think that's going to derail her a little bit here, because even though there's no Monomoy Girl or there's no Swiss Skydiver, she still has to go up against She Dares the Devil, who's a Kentucky Oaks winner, and a couple other really nice females in Paris Lights and Dunbar Road. So I'm a little bit nervous about her with that. I also couple that with not loving her last run in the Azeri. I'm going to take a pass on her here. If this race was a little bit lighter, I'd take her, but just because I can't trust that last effort, I'm going to take a pass on En Fouton in this race. Number 2 is She Dares the Devil. Last year's Kentucky Oaks winner returns to the scene of that Kentucky Oaks victory. And this is a female who, in her career in 3 starts at Churchill Downs, has been perfect, including that Grade 1 win in the Kentucky Oaks when she finished ahead of both Gamine and Swiss Skydiver, who were champions in their respective divisions. Gamine champion sprinter, Swiss Skydiver champion 3-year-old. And She Dares the Devil throughout her career has been a horse who's been really consistent, never been worse than 4th in her career. And, you know, you look at even races where she's not winning, good seconds and good thirds. She ran a good third in the Juddmonte Spinster, which last year I thought was her least inspiring race. So, you know, for that to only be a third, and that was against a couple of horses who were pretty good, I should say, in the forms of Valiance and Ollie's Candy. But at the end of the day in this race, I think 2 things are going to push me away from She Dares the Devil. Number 1, it's because, you know, Letruska almost beat her in the Azeri, and you could look at that as a positive way of, well, look at, she beat the horse who went on to beat the 2 reigning female champions on dirt, Monomoy Girl and Swiss Skydiver. But you can also look at it as in another way, is that, you know, Letruska didn't have the greatest trip in the early part of that Azeri Stakes, and you know, I think if she had a better trip, she would have been able to beat She Dares the Devil. So you can look at that with a positive with her, but you can also look at it with the negative. So I'm a little bit wary about that, but I'm also going to be against She Dares the Devil purely because the price is going to be very short with her, and I'm not one to toss horses because they're going to be heavily favored. If a horse is heavily favored but is good and has a reason to be heavily favored, I will definitely pick that horse. But She Dares the Devil, I'm not 100% sure that she is separated enough from the rest of this field for me to justify picking her on top. So I'm going to take a pass on She Dares the Devil in here, but, you know, she is undefeated at Churchill Downs. You can't discredit her for anything, and, you know, you look at her last run. That was really good. Kentucky Oaks, obviously she beat the 2 best 3-year-olds from last year, so she's a good horse and one that I'm definitely nervous about, especially going against her. Moving on to number 3 is Dunbar Road, who, you know, going back to the later part of last year, after the Beldame, I was completely off this filly. That was a very, very poor run for her, but she rebounded a bit in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Did not run a bad 3rd place finish at all. You know, it definitely restored a little bit of the credibility that she had, and she's never had an issue with the layoff. You know, you look at what she did in 2020 off the layoff in the Shawnee. won very easily. That was at Churchill Downs. She can run at the track. That's something that's very important. I value horses that can win over the surface that they're running at. But it's just with Dunbar Road, I don't love the fact that, she hasn't won since the Delaware Handicap last year, and that was a very average field at best that she beat in that Delaware Handicap. So at the end of the day, it's really just that I don't respect who she's beating. And, like I mentioned, layoff is not an issue for me, but the Shawnee was a lot easier of a race than this is going to be. And at the end of the day, I don't have the greatest confidence that she's going to be able to come back off the layoff in this race against some good grade 1 horses. So I'm going to take a pass also on Dunbar Road in this race. And the next horse is also going to be one that I'm going to be passing, and that's Bajan Girl. Not because she's a bad horse, but just I think she's going to be overmatched. A couple of good runs for her at Gulfstream in the Rampart and the Royal Delta, but at the end of the day, this is a female who her best runs come when she's running an allowance company, and that's not a knock against her. She's a hard trier. She runs some good races. She was 4th in the Gulfstream Park Oaks in 2020, but at the end of the day, her past performances are just not up there with some of the top horses in here. So I'm going to be against her in this race, but she's not a bad horse. And number 5 is Paris Lights for trainer Bill Mata. This is a female who was coming off of a very significant layoff in her most recent start. That was the Distaff Handicap at Aqueduct. She hadn't run previously to the Coaching Club of American Oaks, which she won over a really nice 3-year-old filly, at the time 3-year-old filly, now 4-year-old filly, in Crystal Ball, her stablemate. Before that, Paris Lights had run some nice races at Churchill, a couple of wins. She did lose at Gulfstream, but she's clearly better than she was in that race. You look at that Distaff Handicap, she only won by a half length, but she did what she had to do. Was never really asked to go. Super was a paid workout, so that's really all that was. I really liked her win in the Coaching Club American Oaks last year. Unfortunately, she did not make it to some of the later 3-year-old filly races, so we never got to see her duke it out against some of the top performers in that group. But I always thought that she was going to be a horse that you got to give some major respect to, and I still stand by that. You look at her; she's a Grade 1 winner. She tries hard in every race she runs in, and she's coming off of a winning streak, and she's running at a track that she's already had 2 victories at. I really value horses that take to their surface, and in a race that's as evenly matched as this, I'm looking for another reason to go against a horse like Shedaresthedevil, who I already talked about. I think she's going to be very well bet. Paris Lights is 8-1 on the morning line. I don't know that she's going to stay at that 8-1 price. I would be surprised if she did, but if she is at that 8-1 price, do not overlook her, because if she is 8-1, that could be one of the real overlays of the weekend. She's better than Dunbar Road, she's better than Envoutante, and those 2 females are both higher than her on the odds board. Finite, I'm a little bit iffy on Finite, but if you get that 8-1 on Paris Lights, absolutely take that to the bank, because that could be one of the real value plays of the weekend. Moving on to number 6 is the co-longest price on the board, Sanina. It's probably not going to be the longest price in the race. I think that's going to go to Bajan Girl. But, looking at this female, she's coming out of a 4th place finish in the Madison Stakes. Not the greatest effort, but that was also cutting back from her win in the La Cañada. And I think that's what she's going to need to do in this race. She gets the extra distance. I don't think she's a win candidate in here, just because, I've seen her runs. Only 1 win, and that was in the La Cañada, and this is a lot tougher of a group than she's faced. But her formula for success is stretching back out, so I think that's going to benefit her. If you're looking for some kind of value, I already gave out Paris Lights as the value play in this race. But if you want to stick a horse underneath, the value with her is probably going to hold. The value on Paris Lights could disappear, but I think the value with her will hold. So if you want a horse to use underneath in an exotic, I would definitely say Saninas would be one of those horses that you would have to consider. And the final horse that we're going to talk about is Finite, a horse who is another one who's undefeated at Churchill Downs. Couple times a graded stakes winner. She won the Chaluki, she won the Goldenrod at Churchill Downs as a 2-year-old. Or the Goldenrod as a 2-year-old, Chaluki as a 3-year-old, and she also won the Rags to Riches, which was in October of 2019. So a couple of stakes wins at Churchill Downs as a 2-year-old, stakes winner at 3. She didn't run in the Kentucky Oaks last year, but this is a female who she's a different horse when she runs at Churchill Downs. That's where 3 of her 6 victories have come. So definitely can't write off Finite. I'm not going to be picking Finite just because I don't love her couple of runs in those last 2 races, and I think she's probably better around 1 turn, but you absolutely can't write her off just because, she also has won at the mile and a 16th before as a 2-year-old, but I think that she's generally better at that one turn distance, but we'll see about her. She's not one that I'm going to be writing off because she has won before at distances like this. So this is ultimately a really tough race, but I'm going to go against Shedaresthedevil, like I mentioned already, because I don't love the fact that she's going to be so heavily bet in this race. She deserves to be heavily bet in this race because she is a Kentucky Oaks winner. That's why she's going to be. She's also trained by Brad Cox. She's going to take that money. Dunbar Road is also probably going to take her fair share because she is trained by Chad Brown and has run some good races on her best day, and she also has Irad Ortiz. That's a very good thing for her. Paris Lights, for me, is the value play of this race, and if that value holds, 8-1 on the morning line, I don't know that it will because I think people are going to look at the Coaching Club American Oaks and she will get bet down. But she's probably going to be the third choice in this race behind Shedaresthedevil and Dunbar Road. And if that's the 5-1 range, then I really like Paris Lights in here. I already like her at 8-1. Even if she drops down to that range, I still like her. And even if she's a second choice, still like Paris Lights in this race. Paris Lights is going to be my on-top pick in this race, as I've made very clear already. Can't leave out Shedaresthedevil. She always runs a good race, so I'm going to have Shedaresthedevil be second in here. And then for third, just because I did talk about her, I will stick St. Enos in there just because I do think her value can hold, and I'm looking for some value, or I should say looking for some more value in for third. So that's my top three for this race. We will see you for more Kentucky Derby weekend previews. Obviously, our big Kentucky Derby preview. We have our Kentucky Oaks preview already out. Check that out, and we will see you for the upcoming videos this week. Have a good one.
Top of the stretch. Here is Paris Lights on the outside to take the lead over Crystal Ball. Crystal Ball continues to battle on down towards the rail. On the outside, it's Paris Lights. Antoinette is in third, and now they're inside the eighth pole. And it is Crystal Ball and Paris Lights, and we've got a thrilling stretch duel in the Coaching Club American Oaks. The two fillies come down for the finish, and it's going to be Paris Lights, I believe.